Hello, thank you for joining me. This is Jeannie with Jeannie Create Studio, and let's get started. I'm going to show you how I put fabric on my tumblers. So I found these really cute designs at Joann's Fabrics today. They happened to be on sale, so that was great. For all of these, I think I paid a total of $7.50 or so. So here's how we do it. So you'll need a ruler, your Mod Podge. This is called an edging tool. You can find them on Amazon. Your little X-Acto knife, a pair of scissors, and some material. That's all we need to get started. I will be using two types of the material I just bought. The Mickey Mouse one and the other Mickey Mouse one. So let's get started. I usually just find a good place to start my straight line, and since this material has dots going straight up and down, I'm just going to follow the line of the dots and get my straight edge here. So if you have a design on your material, just make sure your design is going the direction that you want it to on your tumbler. Just double check that before you get started. Flatten out your material really good. You can also iron it, but I don't ever iron, so I just kind of flatten it out. So what you're going to need for this is your ruler, a straight edge, scissors, and your X-Acto knife. So all you do is you bring your material up, and I scoot, and roll. So all that material is now all rolled up, okay? Flip that up there. So right here I can feel where it overlaps. Here's the line where it overlaps, okay? So I'm going to cut on the line that's the material's doubled on. So I'm going to cut it on this side. Over here I don't feel anything. So it starts right here. So I'm going to cut on this side where it's thicker. So all I do, once everything's tight, find that line, and then I'll move past it. A little bit, and this is where I want to cut. So I just hold my ruler on. I'm gonna go this way instead. Hold my ruler on. Cut through both pieces. Okay. I'm going to go like this. I'm going to go this way, and then I'm going to cut a little bit more. All the way to that top rim. Okay? So then you're going to put this down. And right here, it didn't cut all the way, so you just take your scissors and cut that end, and you trim this end, okay? So when you pull this back, you're going to take out that little piece right there. That is the piece you don't want, okay. So that's what I had overlap, so that's what we're going to take out. So now when you take your material and you bring it up over the top, keep it nice and tight, and bring the bottom up, you're going to find that it meets perfectly. Now you can have a tiny overlap if you like. Sometimes I like to do that, but the way I cut this, this should butt up against each other really nice. You can do it any way you want to. It doesn't matter if it's overlaid a little bit or not. Either way is perfectly fine. So we are ready for some Mod Podge. So I have my little Mod Podge brush here, and we're just gonna start applying it to the tumbler. I probably put a little bit too much on. You don't have to have a whole bunch because you just don't want to waste your product. You don't need a lot. So just smooth it all around there until you get full coverage from the top to the bottom. Once I feel like I have it pretty well even all the way around, I'll take the material that is ready. Make sure your material design is going the correct way. Smooth it out there, easy peasy. And then I just put the tumbler right on top of the material. I put it in the center and then fold over one side. And as I'm doing that, I'm making sure it's tight, and I roll it and just sort of smooth it out. Should fit it really well. And I just go all the way around till I'm at that seam, making sure everything's nice and flat, and it is. So my seam lined up pretty good. My design is not exactly matching at all, but you probably will have a hard time matching your design. So it is on the tumbler now. I'm gonna go ahead and trim off all the excess around the bottom and then also around the top. You really want to try to trim as close as you can to the top and bottom, because when you go to use their edging tool, you don't want it bunching up or being uneven as you're trying to use your edging tool around the top and the bottom. So just try to get in here and get it cut as close to the rim as possible. So just as a recap, I am doing 2 tumblers exactly the same at the same time. So I'm going to go ahead and run through this really quick and show you how I got the material to match up on the tumbler in the beginning. So all I did was roll it like I did the first time, exactly the same process. It's never done me wrong. I do it like this every single time. I just roll that until I know that I've gone all the way around. And I'm looking for that seam, and it's right there. That's where I went over on the material. So it's wrapped all the way around, and that's the seam you're looking for. You want to take your roller, go on the side that the material's on, doubled on, not the side that only has one layer. So you always cut on the side where your material has gone over top of the first layer of material, if that makes sense. Put your roller on. You can also use painter's tape on this and then guide your knife down the side to cut it that way. So we're just going to cut this off so that we're going to take out the little piece that is overlapped underneath, and you should have a perfect seam. So that is cut. You can always cut the bottoms and the tops with your scissors because it's very hard to get those with the X-Acto knife. So whatever your X-Acto knife doesn't get, go ahead and trim that piece off, and you're all set to go. So we're going to double check this. We're going to roll the tumbler up here, and then we're going to check out our seam. Lines up really nice. and then we're going to go ahead and get this tumbler Mod Podged, and we're caught up with the other tumbler now. Wanted you to see me wrap this. As soon as I got the Mod Podge on, I put the tumblers almost in the middle of the material. Then I go to pull it up, making sure everything's nice and tight. Flatten down that edge, and then I just scooch and roll. Flatten it down, scooch and roll. That's just my method. You can do whatever works for you. But once you roll it, everything's nice and flat. So you can see how well that seam lined up there. So I do this process for every single tumbler and it never fails me. I just press that down really well, and you know, once everything is nice and flat, I go ahead and trim with the scissors the top and the bottom, just to cut the excess material off. You can Mod Podge before you do that, or you can go ahead and do that before you Mod Podge. I'm really happy with the way this lined up. Everything's nice and smooth and lined up. If you have any little wispy threads, all you have to do is just cut those out, because that's probably going to happen most likely, but you shouldn't notice anything once your tumbler is finished. So just snip them little ends off and you're good to go. So we are ready to continue with the next step. So once the material's on, I usually let it dry for maybe 20 minutes or so, and then I go ahead and apply my Mod Podge to the top of the material. I put a pretty good coat on there, and then I just make sure you get the seam really well too. Just go all the way from the very top to the bottom. Pretty good. I put a good amount on there. Just brush it on evenly. It's very simple. It's all you have to do. And then you're just going to set this aside and let it dry. I usually let it dry about a half hour before I come back to it again. So I thought I'd go ahead and put some Mod Podge on this second one here that I'm doing, since I'm doing them at the same time. You can see I'm putting a pretty good amount on this. I'm going all the way from the top to the bottom, a really super nice even coat. The way I stand up my tumblers is I got these from Lowe's. They're like $8 a piece, and my PVC screws right down into those, so I'm able to stand them up to dry. So I have applied 2 coats of Mod Podge to this tumbler. So now I'm ready to take my edging tool and I'm going to cut off the edges of the tops and the bottoms. These are on Amazon, you can buy them. There's different styles, but they all do the same thing basically. There's a razor blade. You can set your depth according to how thick you want to cut your material off. This also cuts paper as well. So after 2 coats have dried of Mod Podge on top of your material, you're just going to use your edging tool and hold it down and then just turn your cup. And that razor blade will cut straight through your material. Sometimes you have to go through it and cut through it twice. Material can be a little finicky sometimes, but it always works really well. So I like to just start pulling it off. And sometimes you'll run into where it doesn't want to pull off for you because it just needs cut a little bit better. So just put it down on the blade and give it another little trim. I like to take my scissors and cut it so that I can have more control pulling it off the cup. So you'll see there it's just being a little bit stubborn. So I'm just going to put it right back down on that blade and give it another cut. No worries, it'll go right through it for you. Just hold that cup straight down and push down as you turn it so that you're hitting the same exact cut line as you did before. Should be nice and even for you. So once you've done the bottom and the top, you have matching ends. So there's exactly the same amount taken off the bottom as there is the top. I find this is a really important step in doing fabric because you're giving yourself an edge to where your epoxy and your Mod Podge is all going to seal that material down. So your Mod Podge's job is to go over this edge now. So we're going to go ahead and put 2 more coats of Mod Podge on this tumbler and let it dry. That is going to ensure that that Mod Podge is going to get on that seam that you have there, because we don't want any epoxy to get in there. So we're going to go ahead and put our arm on and put our 2 coats of Mod Podge on. And I'm going to show you a little trick that I do. So what I do is I take my Mod Podge brush and I go ahead and go against the grain. So I want to take my brush and go downward so that it fills in the top of that material. See how it's kind of clumping in there? It's not really clumpy, but it's actually going into the material edge. That's going to keep our epoxy from going up under the material. Once the epoxy can get up under that material, a lot of people I've heard call them oil slicks, where you can see dark spots of epoxy that got up under there. So just to ensure this doesn't happen, I do take my brush and see how I'm brushing up so that that kind of packs it down into that material area on the edge of your material. I've never had epoxy go up under by doing it this way. So that's just how I do it. Hopefully that works for you. I do it every time and it's never failed me yet. Everything has dried on it really well. So I decided to put this tape, just decorative tape, on the top and the bottom. I like the classic black and white look on this tumbler, so I didn't want to put anything in color on there, but I did want a little bit of sparkle. So I'm going to put this right where the material starts and go all the way around with this tape. Gives it a little bit of sparkle. And I just go with the material line because it's very, very straight. Once I get to the end, I will snip that off. Whoops, snip that off. And then I'll just tighten down the tape. I like that little bit of sparkle that it gives the cup. I'm going to do the same with the bottom here. I'm going to go right at the material line. All the way around. I almost did this in red, but I just like that classic black and white look, so put a little sparkle in here. Once I get to the end of that, I'm going to snip it. Because this is a thicker tape, I'm going to try and just cut that off right at the end so it doesn't overlap. So that's it on that cup. So once I have that on there, secure it really good, I will put, now at this point you can put another coat of Mod Podge on, or you can just start your epoxy. I just began using crystal lac, and it actually is coming in the mail today. So I have these cups in waiting that are ready for me to start with the bright tone. So just wanted to show you guys that. So I will put several coats of bright tone on here, but this is pretty much going to be my finished cup. I love it. Let me show you the other one. This one dried really super nice too. And I went ahead and put that sparkle on the top of this one. You can always add another color. You can do 2 colors if you want to, or however you want to do it, but I like the extra sparkle that gives a little bit. You can also, before you put this tape on, you can also glitter your cups part way up. You can glitter in the middle. I almost put a red glitter on the bottom of this one, but I think I just like it the way it is with the fabric. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. Please like and subscribe for more. I'm coming out with some more ideas soon. Let me just show you. I went ahead and did the one with the comics. I put red around the top, but that's the fabric, and see how nice that seam came together. And then I also did 4 at the same time. So this is my Alice in Wonderland fabric tumbler. So I hope you guys really enjoyed this, and please like and subscribe, and we will see you guys next time. Thank you.